Hi everybody, welcome back to Jenkins Boat Works. I am Chuck Jenkins. In this video episode, we are going to fix the disaster that happened in the last video. If you saw that video, you watched the hole saw get away from me, flip around inside the canoe and cause a bunch of damage. It was a very frustrating, upsetting part of this, but it is part of it. And so I had a lot of contemplation and frustration as I tried to figure out what was the best way to fix what I'd goofed up. So I think you'll see in this video just my process as I go through it. There's a lot of sanding and work that I either cut out or sped up. So anyway, but I think it's important to show that. If you want to get it right, you got to take your time and you just embrace that. If you're new to the channel, would you consider subscribing? We have lots of boat building projects. Go back, dig through the channel. If you're interested in a stitch and glue kayak, you can see the Chesapeake 18. There's a whole video series on that, as well as a bunch of other stuff. And so anyway, click the little bell down below if you're interested in getting notifications about future videos. And anyway, we're glad you're here. Happy Thanksgiving. I've got my Thanksgiving shirt on. So let's jump in and see how I fixed my disaster. Well, in the last video, the hole saw got away from me when we were drilling out the hole for the deck plate. If you haven't seen that, go back and look at the disaster. I believe the title of the video is Bulkheads and Decks. Anyway, the hole saw and the power drill got away from me and it flipped loose and it cut these gouges in here. I cleaned these out a little bit. I put a little bit of fiberglass in there with a little bit of epoxy, but I still got big issues here. This is actually fairly smooth, but while I'm in here, I'm going to see if I can fix it a little bit. This here's got me troubled because there's an indentation here. I can stick my fingernail in it. And so I don't want water to collect in here and I want it smooth. So I think I'm going to take something and try and dig that out a little bit and see if I can, this white stuff I think is just epoxy, but it feels loose. See, I almost get that out of there with my fingernail. I think I'm going to get an awl or a little screwdriver or a little chisel or something and see if I can get that kind of picked out of there. Maybe we'll take a little bit of sandpaper and clean out that gash and then figure out what to do from there. So I've just got a 1/4-inch chisel, my whale mallet, and I've got an awl. And I want to fix it, but I don't want to make it worse. So let's see if we can get some of that out of there. Oh yeah, this is still pretty painful. I'm going to vacuum that out and see where we're at. Take some 80 grit and see if we can get in there. This process turned out to be an awful lot of sand, vacuum, clean out, sand, vacuum, spray down, clean out, sand and vacuum, some more. And it was a slow process, and I just kept working at it. Just keep chipping away at it until you get it to where you think you're good. Let's wash it out and see if we can clean that out of there a little bit. That's alcohol and water. Like cleaning out a wound. I gotta say, I'm perplexed as to what to do. I've gotten real aggressive here. You can see I'm into the wood right there. I've gone through the fiberglass cloth. You can see the edge of it there. This one over here, I can stick my fingernail down in there. These strips are 1/4 inch thick. I think I'm probably down a good 1/16 or so. I'm thinking about taking the mouse sander and going in and cleaning all around it and building it up with fiberglass cloth. The perplexion here is aesthetics versus strength. I could just put some thickened epoxy in there, fill the gashes, and then put some cloth over it. So how pretty do I want it to be? That's the question. I think I'm going to take the mouse sander and start on this one here and see if I can just clean that up a little bit, because I'm already into the wood anyway. Let's try that. A lot of these marks were pretty much on the surface, and with using the mouse sander, I was able to clean up an awful lot of that. That stuff to the left there is going to be completely gone. Still ugly. This 80 grit on the mouse sander is really tearing into this. I've clearly through all the fiberglass here. And you can see I've got most of the scarring out of this part, and I thought this was the worst part, this one. But this has still got a hole here. It's deep. So I think I'm gonna clean up these other parts that are more cosmetic. Here too, this up here, because I'm not into the wood there too bad. But then I'm just gonna have to be good with leaving that. And I'm thinking to thicken the epoxy, but if I use the white thickener, I'm gonna have that to deal with as a discoloration in there, and I don't want that. I've got an idea to either take a little bit of cherry stain and just go over that, especially right in here. And I can build this up with a couple of pieces of cloth and epoxy. And something else I'm thinking I might do is mix my epoxy without thickener and let it start to go off. And that way it would be thicker and I can kind of cram it down in there, just put on a rubber glove and push it down in this hole. Let's see if I can get a little bit more discoloration out of here. I think I'm going to switch to the 120 grit and see if we can get a little bit more of that out of there to where it's not quite so noticeable. I can get all this here, probably this here, that piece, this down here, and this up here. And if I do that, this will be pretty negligible. What a mess. Dang it. That 80 grit's really aggressive. I'm going to go to this 120.
I think as you're able to see, you saw a lot of my thought process as far as possible solutions for this. And then as I note here, I've cut out a ton of the sanding. You're not going to get to see all of that. Man, that's a mess. We're getting there. We've got the worst of it out of there, as much as I can get. This here is just gonna be a gash. I got these little marks pretty much out of here and this here. It really, I don't think it's gonna be too noticeable. I'm all the way through the cloth into the wood. We're gonna put a little piece of fiberglass cloth in there. And right in here, and we're going to build that up with a couple of layers of cloth over the next couple of days. It's unfortunate, but she's just going to have a couple of little marks, and that's just all there is to it. It's better than it was. It's better than it was. I thought about coloring this up with some sawdust, but I'm not going to. I'm going to mix this up real good. And I'm gonna fill these cracks in here without any fiberglass cloth at all. We're just going to put straight epoxy on there, seal this wood. Then we'll sand that just a little bit once that sets up, and then we'll put cloth on top of it. All right, so I'm making sure I got all the dust out of there. I don't want any white specks showing up in there. I mix this epoxy, I'm letting it sit. I'm kind of waiting for it to warm up because I want it to kind of thicken a little bit on its own. And then I've taken a chip brush and I've kind of cut it to a point. So hopefully I can get right in here like that with this epoxy. And we'll seal that up. And then we'll let that set up for a day, and then we'll come back and rough it up a little bit, put some fiberglass cloth down, and try to build up these low spots. There's like a little dip there. See, that was where that original terrible spot was. And I dipped down in there. The way I was using the mouse sander, I've put a divot in the wood. Well, it was already there. I've just smoothed it out. Kind of starting to get thick already. I wouldn't say it's going off. It's warm. All right, here goes nothing. That's what I said when I had the disaster. Yeah, that's starting to thicken up a little bit. I can still see the outline of this where I'll put that cloth in there. I may come up here early in the morning and do that so that I get a chemical bond between this little layer here. I think I can get away without re-sanding it. Okay, sometimes it's good to know when to leave well enough alone. It ain't gonna be perfect, that's all there is to it. All right, so we put just a coat of epoxy in these two places where it was all sanded down last night. It was probably 10:30, 11 o'clock when we did that. It's now almost 8 o'clock in the morning, so not quite 12 hours. It's still just a teeny bit tacky. We're pretty smooth in here with the exception of there's just, you can still feel a little dent in this bad gash back there in the back. So now I'm gonna take some fiberglass cloth and I'm gonna fill in the lowest spots with very thin little piece of fiberglass cloth. And we're gonna start building this up. So like that, and then we'll put one in there. I'll try to cut this out cleanly so I don't got a bunch of strings. And let's do that like that. I actually think I'm gonna put just a teeny little bit more over there. Let's recut that one. Okay, let's wet that down underneath it. We'll put the cloth in. That's actually trying to stick to it. that one wetted out real nice. Okay. Let's see. Get that to where you can't see any white. And then we'll come back this evening with a couple of bigger patches. And that should give us some structural integrity that way. All right. Let's try to smooth this out, unless I have to sand later. If you like the video, remember to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.